Hey guys, so welcome to part 1 of my Ancientsathon vlogs that I'm going to do. I'm going to do 2 of these vlogs throughout the month, so this first one should cover the first couple weeks, and then the next one will cover maybe not quite till the end of the month, but at least most of the rest of the month. So it's been kind of a long day. I ended up having just a lot of stuff that ended up going on. I slept in a little bit later than I usually do on Tuesdays, which ended up, of course, making the day shorter than I'm used to, so kind of time got a little bit away from me, but it is about 4:30. I have our live show at 6, so in about an hour and a half, and I'm planning on going to my parents to do that since my room doesn't have a door. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. I think I have, but if you don't know that, I don't have a door. I have a curtain because we're trying to save money on rent. So yes, I don't have a door. And as such, it's not really a huge problem, but when I do live shows, I would prefer a little bit more privacy than I'm able to get in this room. So I'm going to go to my parents to do that so that I have a little more space to wiggle around in and a little less issues, hopefully, with, roommates or family being loud. I mean, I'm sure my bedroom's in the basement there, so I'm sure we'll be able to hear people walking around upstairs and stuff, but hopefully it won't be too bad. But anyway, I'm going to show you what I'm going to start off this month with. I am super excited to finally get into these books. I've been planning on reading them for ages now, and so it's finally time to get started on Ancientsathon. So, first of all, of course, we have the group read Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, and I have it broken up into sections to read throughout the month. I should finish a few days before the end of the month so that I can kind of collect my thoughts in time for the final live show. And so it's only literally 11 pages a day to do what I want to do to finish it by the time I want to finish it. So that's what I'm going to do. Just 11 pages a day, work through it slowly, really get into it, look at the notes, take my time to really make sure I'm understanding it. I'm hoping to read this before I have to head off to my parents, so hopefully we'll be able to do that. Then the other thing I would like to read before I head off to my parents is a Lais from Marie de France. I have this one also split up. This will only take me about half the month, but I'm planning on reading just a lay per day until I finish. I think there's about 15 lays total. On this first day, I actually have it broken up to where I have the prologue included in the first lay because it's not very long. So we'll do that. This first lay is actually pretty long. It looks like it's about 29 pages, which compared to the others is pretty long. Actually, it might be 2 lays that I'm doing for this one. Nope, it's just 1. Oh yeah, at the end of each lay, they have little notes from Robert Hanning and Joan Ferrante, who were the translators for this. So kind of fun, and that just added a little extra to each one, which will be really great. And I'm excited to get through more of her lays. I've just been dying to for honestly a couple years now, and to finally be able to do that is just really exciting. This was like the top thing for this Ancientsathon I was so excited to get to. I mean, I'm excited for everything else too, don't get me wrong, but that was something that really I've just been looking forward to so much, so we're going to do that. And then the thing I'm reading that's not like broken up that I can just kind of read at my own pace is the Oresteia by Aeschylus. So I'm going to read this trilogy, of plays, and yeah, it shouldn't take me very long. I think it's like 150 pages. This whole section is just the introduction essay. So I may end up reading it once I finish the trilogy, we'll see. Sometimes with I always want to read the opening essays at the front of books, but sometimes I'm just excited to be done with the book when I finish it, and so I don't want to go back and read more from it, if that makes sense. I don't know if you experience the same thing, but then I don't want to read it to start off with because a lot of times there are spoilers in those little essays. So we'll see if I end up in the mood for it or if it's just sometime in the future. I usually often will sometime in the future end up reading the introduction. I just recently a couple days ago read the introduction to The Woodlanders by Thomas Hardy, which I read back at the beginning of April, so it's been a couple months and I just decided to read that. So often I'll just kind of come back and read it later, but we'll see. Anyway, so I will be working on those 3 books, this one and then these 2. These 2 I'd like to, like I said, get my portion done before the live. I don't think I'm gonna finish this before the live because it is kind of long. I do have this Saturday off work, which is exciting, which means I can spend a lot of that day reading, which will be really good, before I start my new job on Monday, which I'm super excited about. Nervous, but excited. So anyway, that is going to be it for this little update, this starting introduction little portion. I actually have to do laundry now that I think about it. A little bit of a tangent, but that means I have even less time to read what I want to read. But hopefully, I'm hoping at least I can finish Pilgrim's Progress before the live, and then we'll see where I'm at. If I have to start this tomorrow, that's not a huge deal. Like, I just want to finish it by the end of the month. I don't really care about the exact day I finish it. So anyway, thanks for being here, and I will check in with you in a little bit. Hi guys, so it is the next day, the 2nd. We are into our 2nd day of Ancientsathon, and I did the live last night with Jennifer. It went pretty well. Lives, as I'm sure many of you can imagine or know, are pretty intimidating no matter how many you've done, which I've only done one before this one, so definitely not used to it, but it's just definitely a pretty intimidating thing, because while, like, obviously all you guys are watching me right now, whenever you're watching me, I'm not filming when you're watching it, if that makes sense. Like, right now when I'm filming, it's just talking to my camera, whereas when you're live, you know that people are watching you right then and seeing everything you're doing right then. So it's a little more intimidating, but yeah, ended up going really well. A lot of great book recommendations, a lot of people really hoping I enjoyed the Oresteia, so hopefully that will go well. Sorry if I sound a little congested. I can't tell if I like sound congested to other people, but I sound it to myself. But anyway, I just caught a cold from my sister, which I think she's had it a little more intensely than I have. But this morning I let myself kind of sleep in pretty late in the day. I think I got up about 10 o'clock, which for some people that might be a normal sleep-in day, but for me that is kind of on the later end. And I was tempted to stay in bed a little longer, but I had things I wanted to get done this morning, and I honestly got to the point where I feel pretty good. Like, I definitely feel sick still, but not as bad as I did yesterday. Yesterday I kept zoning out, which was why I was so worried about the live, because part of why I was so worried about the live was because I seriously was so zony and tired that I was like, I don't know if I can do this, but again, it ended up going well. So anyway, getting into the books, I did end up reading my portions of both the Pilgrim's Progress and the Lais of Marie de France yesterday. Read the first lay, which was Guigmar. I probably did not pronounce that right, but it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. I think it was one of the longer lays, so that was very interesting, and this translation is pretty good. It's definitely one that's more focused on telling the story as opposed to necessarily getting rhythm and the poetic feel down. It doesn't have quite the same poetic feel as previous translations I've read, so be aware if you end up getting this edition that it does have that. But at the end, like I mentioned, of each one they have a little portion talking about the story itself and some of the symbolism involved, and that was really interesting. So today I'll be reading Equiton, which is only like 11 pages, whereas that other one was about 30, so that will be a pretty quick read, and that 11 pages includes the little essay at the end, so definitely shouldn't take very long. And then I did, like I said, start Pilgrim's Progress, and I really am liking it already. I've already started making some annotations, so I have some things to talk about at the end of the month during our live when we discuss it more in depth, but it is definitely one that I'm intrigued by, and I really find the writing, at least this version of it, to be pretty easy to read and very enjoyable so far, so I'm excited to continue with this. I also worked on the Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman through audiobook while I was driving to and from my parents' house, and I'm really liking that as well. It's very easy to get into, very interesting story so far, so definitely really enjoying that. And then the one thing I did not get to that I had hoped to was the Oresteia. Yesterday I just ended up being pretty tired, like I mentioned, with my cold, so I wasn't able to really get into this. I just needed to go to bed. So my hope today is that, especially since I have a shorter lay to read in Marie de France, I'm hoping that I can just get through Agamemnon, which is the first play in this trilogy of plays, and that one's about 70 pages, so I feel like it's very doable, especially because it's not like full pages. It's like, I mean, it's poetry, so it's not gonna take quite as long as normal reading, although it is older language, so it will probably take a little bit of effort on that line, but I'd like to get through the first play. My goal is actually to get through Agamemnon today, tomorrow read the second one, which I think is the Libation Bearers, and then the third play I'd like to get through on Friday so I can just read it all within 3 days. And then on Saturday I actually have the day off, and I would love to just read Coriolanus, at least complete Coriolanus by William Shakespeare, and that way I'll have 2 finished already and 3 others started out of my 6 books that I need to read. And hopefully at that point I'll be able to also start the history of the kings of Britain. So yeah, definitely should be a good time, and I will talk to you later. Hi guys, so hopefully I don't shake the camera too much, but it is currently the 4th of June. I did not really read very much yesterday. I did read one of the Lais of Marie de France and a little, like, a page of the Oresteia, but I was really not feeling well, and I ended up taking like a 4-hour nap, and then I just sat around and watched Say Yes to the Dress. I just could not focus, especially on Pilgrim's Progress. I've been trying to annotate the Pilgrim's Progress, so it takes a little bit more thought, and I just could not do it yesterday. Today I'm feeling a bit better, still not top-notch or anything. You probably can tell. You might be able to hear my congestion a little bit. But I did just barely for today read a section of the Pilgrim's Progress, and I'm still really enjoying it. Luckily, I did plan this out to where I have a few extra days at the end of the month where I won't be reading this, so missing a day isn't gonna kill my plans or anything. Yeah, I'm really, really liking it more than I expected to. I didn't expect to hate it, but I really wasn't sure. I just feel like with a lot of literature from this swath of time, I enjoy a lot of it, but it's also pretty different, and so sometimes there are works that I just can't get as into, but I really am enjoying this. I like the writing, I like all the symbolism that's being played with. I've been able to take a lot of notes throughout, so hopefully we'll have a good discussion at the end of the month, and yeah, we'll see how it continues to go. I mean, obviously I'm not super far into it because I'm reading 11 pages a day for the whole month and it's only the 4th, so definitely not a lot read, but I am enjoying what I have read so far. Then I am doing pretty well as well with the Lais of Marie de France. I'm just kind of going with my tab, so that's where I am currently. I just read, what was it called? Bisclavre, which is about a werewolf, which I was very fascinated by. I don't think I've ever read anything that actually, like, from this time period with werewolves in it. So that was kind of an interesting little lay that I was able to read, and I really liked it. I'm really liking pretty much all of these, and I like the little essays at the end. I've mentioned that before, but I just really like how they go more into depth of the symbolism, possible aspects of human nature that are being explored in the story. And honestly, I think Bisclavre might be my favorite that I've read so far. I've really liked a lot of the other ones too, but I just really liked the symbolism of man and our bestial side, if that makes sense. The side of us that maybe acts more animal than human versus the side that acts human, and just finding that, I guess, controlling the animal side, but also recognizing that it does come out here and there. And I don't know, it was just a very interesting little symbolic story of that. The next one that I'll be reading tomorrow is actually L'Envol, which is one that I have read before, so that will be kind of fun. I did remember enjoying that one. So yeah, I really, really am liking this still. Also still really enjoying Norse mythology. I really, really am liking it a lot. I love Loki. He's just so clever and mischievous, and he's just a lot of fun to read about. I also am finding myself really liking Freya, the goddess Freya, because she just she just has this attitude of just like, I'm surrounded by these idiotic men, and I can't. And I just love her sass and her willingness to be like, no, you're all being dumb. I really like her a lot, and yeah, all the stories are really fun and interesting. I'm really, really liking it, even more than I expected to, so definitely excited to continue with that. I do have work today, but it's my last day working I work at a dinosaur museum, and it's my last day working there as I move into a job that's a little more psychology oriented, so in preparing for my career, which I'm excited about. A little nervous, obviously. Starting a new job is just nerve-wracking to, I think, everybody, but it's exciting, and I think it's extra nerve-wracking for me because I haven't
had a job that's requires that much responsibility, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm dealing with people's mental health, and specifically in this job, I'm helping people's children who are on the autism spectrum. Like, if I mess up in a certain way, it could cause some big problems. And so it's just a little anxiety inducing, but it's also exciting, and it is what I want to do. So, just gotta get started, go with it, and hope for the best, hope and pray. But it is my last day working for the dinosaur museum, so we're gonna have my coworker and I that I'm working with tonight are gonna order some sandwiches, just, have a good old time. But until then, that's in about, what time is it? Yeah, I got about an hour before I have to leave for that. So I think I'm going to read the Oresteia as much as I can before then. I'd like to get through Agamemnon today. I know I've said that a million times, but I would like to today. It's just, been hard because I fell sick and I was like, I just can't focus on anything. I did read a little bit actually of the Sunne and Splendour last night, a little bit, meaning like 3 pages, but it was fun. I'm still liking it. I'm very curious to see how far I get in that this month because it's so big. And I do want to focus a little bit more on Ancientsathon, which it's not for Ancientsathon, but it is kind of a bonus for Ancientsathon. So it's still, like, in my mind counts as far as, like, the celebration of the theme of Ancientsathon. But obviously I want to prioritize my actual reads for Ancientsathon if I can. So we'll see how much I end up reading of that. Although if things go up to plan and I read the books I have planned for my TBR as fast as I think I could, I may be able to have, like, even the second half of the month to focus a lot more on that book, as well as Pilgrim's Progress, but we'll see how it all goes. So anyway, that's my update for right now, and I will talk to you later. Hi guys, we're gonna have some shaky footage because I'm too lazy to get my stand out, but it is Saturday. I don't think I filmed it all yesterday, maybe I did, but I ended up having the day off work, so I had a little bit extra time to read today. I did end up kind of getting up a little later because I'm still working through my cold, plus I stayed up really late last night I got down a rabbit hole of watching reaction videos to Demi Lovato's newest album. So that was fun. But anyway, because of that, I ended up getting up and realizing I had to write a blog post and edit and upload 3 videos in preparation for this next week. So that took me a few hours, and it ended up being 2:30 by the time I was done, and which was a little later than I wanted to start reading, but I still ended up starting to read, and I ended up reading pretty much the whole of the Oresteia. I did read a few pages yesterday, but honestly it was like maybe 20 pages, so I read pretty much all of it today and really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. There were definitely some points where I wasn't as interested, and the third in the trilogy, the Eumenides, definitely butchered that, but the third of the trilogy definitely kind of died off at the end. It was very similar to the Odyssey and how it ended, where it just all of a sudden like turned and became about the gods instead of about the story it's been telling this whole time, which seems to be a common theme, where it all comes back to the gods and what the gods do for man, and that it's all in the hands of the gods in the end, and that they're the only ones who can really fix problems, and that men is useless without them. So anyway, definitely had that ending, which always kind of loses me a little bit in Greek stories, but I still really enjoyed a lot about it. There were definitely some very interesting characters in this. In fact, I had a thought of a retelling that would be really fun to read. I'm not really a writer, so I don't know if I'll ever write it, but if somebody watches this video and feels inspired, please write it, because I'd love to see it, of like a family saga series where you follow the family of Agamemnon, but like from before, because this, if you've read this, you know, or just know much about Greek mythology, you probably have heard that the ancestors of Agamemnon also had their drama. And I think it would be very interesting to have a series that just goes down the generations of all this drama until it reaches Orestes. I think that would be very interesting. So if you know anything like that exists, please let me know. But if it doesn't exist and you're a writer and you feel inspired, definitely do it, because I think that would be a very interesting series to read. But yes, definitely really enjoyed it. Not necessarily a new favorite or anything, but I did really, really like it. The writing was beautiful, even though there was a lot of it I did not understand because I don't know all the Greek myths. And even the notes were kind of set up to assume that you know the stories. It's just kind of reminding you. So I ended up looking up on Google. I actually didn't utilize the notes very much in this because at first I was, and I felt like it just pulled me out of the story itself too much to where I was just getting confused and overwhelmed. So I was like, you know what, for this first reading, I'm just gonna read the play. I'm just gonna go through, and that's what I ended up doing. Maybe in the future I'll reread this and rely on the notes a little bit more and get a little deeper into it, but I just genuinely wanted to get through the stories, get an understanding of the plays on my own, and then I can come back later and get all the notes in for myself. But anyway, yes, great first book to finish. I did not end up reading any of Pilgrim's Progress today, mostly because I just wasn't really in the mood. I'm still my brain's kind of foggy still, just with fatigue mostly from getting over my disease. So I did not read my 11 pages, but I am planning on just reading 2 sections tomorrow because I'm not going, on Sundays I don't usually have very much time to read, plus I am religious and I just choose to use my Sundays in other ways anyway, which fills up time, meaning I have less time to read anyway. But also when I do read, I want to read specific types of things, and usually classics I'm not as worried about reading on Sundays in general, but I feel like Pilgrim's Progress is definitely one I feel very comfortable reading on a Sunday because it's very religious and has a lot of religious symbolism that I can kind of think about within that context. So I'll probably read 2 sections tomorrow just to make sure I'm caught up. The lay that was for today was Lawnval, which I kind of just skimmed because I have read it before, but it is one I really enjoyed and it was really great. And then that one I probably won't read tomorrow. I might. I'm kind of going back and forth on whether I'll read that one, another portion of that tomorrow on Sunday, but we'll see how it goes. But right now I'm actually going to Denny's to meet up with some friends for dinner. It's about 9 o'clock at night because there's some co-workers from my now previous job at my local dinosaur museum that I just quit, and so yesterday was my last day, but we're just having a dinner together. And then there's another one, my friend Kariana, who also no longer works there, but we're all just going to Denny's to eat and have a good dinner together, so we're gonna do that. So we'll see if we get some food footage in this vlog just to make it a little bit more interesting. I did order cookies the other day and I meant to film that, but I never did, and now they're like pretty much demolished. There's a few left, but it's not as exciting when you're seeing like only the chocolate chip that's left as opposed to all the other fancy cookies we got. But anyway, I'm gonna shut this down now because I gotta go, and I will talk to you later. Okay, you're getting some fabulous lighting right here, but I just have a little thing to rant about, and I decided to do it on camera. So, earlier today, I was watching Kate Howe and Katie Books and a couple other people do a discussion of Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell. They posted it like a week ago, and I just barely watched it. It's like an hour and a half, so I was waiting until I had like a little bit more time to do it. So it's Sunday, and I was able to watch that while I kind of laid down. I ended up staying up till 3:30 last night, which was just grand. I told you, I think in the last clip, that I was going to Denny's with some friends. Well, I stayed there for about 5 hours, from 9 to about 2:30, and then I got home and I was still pretty awake, so I was like, and I needed a shower, so I was like, I guess I'm gonna shower, and then it ended up being like 3:30 by the time I got to bed, so, and then I got up at 9:30, so running on 6 hours of sleep, which isn't horrible, but I'm one that I prefer getting 9, so definitely feeling it, and I'm going to go to bed a little bit early tonight, so I'm ready for tomorrow, because I have to get up early. And then I also have to work 2 jobs tomorrow. I mean, I'll have like 5 hours in between, so that will be good, but it's gonna feel like a long day. So anyway, sorry about the shaking camera. I didn't want to get my stand out again. But anyway, back to this video about Wives and Daughters. Finally watched it. Really liked it. It was so funny. Kieran from Katie Books just cracks me up. Unfortunately, he did not really like Wives and Daughters. He DNF'd it. But he's considering reading North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which will be really good. I haven't read that one. I'm actually going to read that in August with Connor Stompanato, which will be really fun. But anyway, they made a comment that I want to comment on that I hate when people say so much.
they made a comment about how, and I want to preface this by saying, when it comes to spoilers, especially for classics, I used to be a lot more concerned about them than I currently am. If I can avoid them, I do prefer that. But I'm not, like, if I get spoiled for a classic, it's not the end of the world for me. Like, I'm still willing to read that book, and it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to hate it or anything. But a common argument against why people shouldn't worry about spoilers, I guess is how I should say it, that they brought up in this little discussion was that these books have been out for 200 years. Like, at this point, like, you're just gonna have to deal with spoilers. Here's the thing. I hate it when people say that, because I kind of get what they're saying as far as, like, you know, you're a lot more likely to run across spoilers because they're going to be everywhere. They're going to be all over the internet. They're going to be in other books. Like, it's easy to run into that. But here's my issue, is it also comes across as, like, you've had all this time to read it. Like, if you haven't read it yet, too bad. It may have been around for 200 years, but I'm 23, and I haven't even been able to read, let alone read classics and understand them for all of that time, either, for those full 23 years. So, like, yeah, it may be 200 years old, but I'm not, and, like, I haven't had time to read every book in the world yet, oddly enough. So, no, I don't know how it ends. Yeah, that argument just bothers me so much every time people say it, because I'm like, that just makes no sense. Just because something has been around for, if you wanted to talk about Shakespeare, for example, just because that's been around for 500 years doesn't mean everybody's read it. Again, I understand, like, in some ways people who say that kind of mean, like, you're a lot more likely, like I said, to run into spoilers because it's gonna be around. There's gonna be references and stuff made. But some people make that comment with the idea of, like, sorry if you haven't read it by now after all this time, too bad. Which, just, do they not think through that comment? Do they not think through that idea? I hate it so much. And it's so funny that I hate that argument so much when, like, it's not like I disagree with the idea of, like, not worrying about spoilers. Like, I totally agree with the idea of, like, you know what, especially with classics, you kind of just have to learn to deal with spoilers a little bit more, because, again, you're more likely to run across them. But that argument in particular just really gets me. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rant. I will link that video down below if you're curious about it. It was fabulous, hilarious, definitely made me laugh out loud, despite the fact I was super tired. You know, it overcame my exhaustion and made me laugh out loud. So, very good. And actually, they were talking about having Kate give Kieran a new book every year that they would read together like that. And I think that would be so fun. Like, I think we all need to challenge ourselves. If you watch Katie books, which you should because he's great, we all need to try to find a piece of Victorian literature that he will like. That is the goal of BookTube right now, people. We need to find a piece of Victorian literature that actually appeals to Kieran. Hopefully we can. Hopefully Kate can. I believe in her. That's my rant. That's my chat. Sorry, I keep readjusting the camera because I'm holding it kind of awkwardly. But anyway, as far as reading goes today, didn't read a lot. I mean, it's a Sunday and I've mentioned I don't read a ton on Sundays. I did read some of Pilgrim's Progress. Still going good on that. I started the History of the Kings of Britain, literally read like 2 pages, but I am really liking that. It kind of took me by surprise as how it's going. Like, I didn't expect it to be what it is, but I'm really liking it. And that's about it as far as reading goes for today. So sorry I didn't get you any food footage, by the way, at Denny's. Like I said, I got talking for 5 hours straight and clearly just forgot. So anyway, that happened. Yeah, and I will update you tomorrow, probably in between my shifts at my 2 jobs. So anyway, yes. Guys, Jane Austen July is officially being announced today, and it kind of makes me a little scared because that means this year is like pretty much halfway over. And that's so odd. But it looks like Spinster's Library is now a new co-host, which is really exciting. And you better believe I'm watching all 3 of the announcement videos because why not? Hey guys, so it is the next day, Monday, and I have a few thoughts to share with you really quick. So I just got back from work and I got back from work like an hour ago, but I took a little nap because I'm still working through my cold and
the other day, I think I mentioned yesterday that I stayed up really late, and I was definitely feeling it. So it was not a 4-hour nap like earlier this week. It was only like a 30-minute quick nap. But now I'm going to eat lunch and then start reading. So of course I'm going to be reading my portions of both The Pilgrim's Progress and the Lais of Marie de France. And I also am readjusting my plan a little bit for The History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth. I originally was just going to like read through this like normal, just whenever I have a chance to read, and just try to finish it, hopefully within the week. But I feel like there's just a lot of names in this book, which I expected, but I just didn't really think about. And because of that, it feels like it takes a lot of thought. And so I want to take a little bit more time with it, take it a little bit slower. I also realized that by the end of this week, I'm probably going to finish Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman for sure. I only have like an hour left of that audiobook left, so I'll definitely finish it this week. I'll probably finish the Lais of Marie de France, if not by the end of this week, then by like Monday of the next week. So definitely really quick, I'm going to be finishing this. And then I am planning on listening to Coriolanus all the way through on Friday morning. And that means all I have left to finish on my TBR will be The Pilgrim's Progress and History of the Kings of Britain. Now, I could read other things, obviously, but I feel like 6 books for one readathon for me is pretty good, especially for a readathon like this where I do like this kind of literature, but it is very different, and it's not what I usually read, and it takes a little bit more effort on my part to work through it all. So I feel like I don't really want to reach for anything else. Plus I'm reading the Sunne and Splendour, which is over 900 pages, and I would like to try to get as close to finishing that as possible by the end of this month, because Jane Austen July is in July, and I usually just participate by reading like a Jane Austen work, and then I don't read anything else. But this year for some reason I'm feeling very motivated to actually pick up hopefully a little bit more for the prompts for Jane Austen July, and as such I don't want to be like reading over 900 pages or a huge chunk of an over 900 page book in July. So I want to get through the Sunne and Splendour as fast as possible. All that to say, I don't think I'm going to read anything more than my 6 books I have for the TBR, but I also still want it to spread throughout the month. Like, I don't want this 2-week vlog to pretty much be all I read, minus The Pilgrim's Progress, and then have my next vlog, like, not really include as much Ancientsathon reading. So I decided to take this a little bit slower. I'll still finish this probably a week and a half-ish before the end of the month. Most likely, I'm planning on reading like 10 pages a day. I think this copy is like 147 pages, but it starts on page 10. So about 140 pages. So that's about 14 days, including today, which will be I think about the 20th. So I'll finish this on the 20th, but I feel good about that decision. I feel like it will be very helpful to keep me going with Ancientsathon while also not overwhelming myself with Ancientsathon, to just be working on these basically for the last couple weeks of the month. Yeah, so that's the plan. I also wanted to come on here and mention that I have ordered so many things in the past few days alone. I got a stimulus check, which I have to use a huge chunk of to pay for my next semester of college, so I'm not like going crazy. But first of all, it's summer and I just feel like I need a couple new clothes. I just ordered a set of plain t-shirts and a new Hufflepuff t-shirt, because my Hufflepuff t-shirt of the past is a little worn and I need a new one. So ordered a new Hufflepuff t-shirt, and then I ordered a nice like flowy spring looking summery skirt that I'm excited for. Then also the other day, before I got the stimulus check, I ended up getting an email from Book Outlet that said that they had free shipping and 10% off everything. And their shipping is kind of expensive, at least for me. It's actually been a long time since I ordered from Book Outlet. I feel like Book Outlet sometimes has good things, but it doesn't always have the types of things I necessarily want to read that I'm all that interested in. Anyway, but because of that sale, I was like, well, let me check it out, and I actually found a few things that I'm excited to get and will be getting. And then today with Jane Austen July announcements, I just spur of the moment was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy a couple of other Jane Austen type things to read.
So I did that. And then I have a friend, this isn't for me, I have a friend who is getting married, and so I got her something off her registry, just barely, that I'm having sent to me because I'm going to her bachelorette party, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it to her wedding, so I'm like, I'll just get it so I can give it to her at her bachelorette party with some chocolates or something, and then that will be good. So I'm having it sent to me, so all of those things pretty much are going to be in separate packages, and I just am slightly overwhelmed with how much I just purchased, but I mean, it's fine. And the funny thing is, I was totally tempted to buy a couple other books that Jennifer Brooks recommended to me during our live show, and I didn't because I was like, I just had this feeling like, you know what, maybe not. Maybe we'll wait on it because I do have a lot of books to read, and I'll just come back to it another time, which, like I said, was a very good decision, because then I ended up being like, Jane Austen July, I gotta get some books for Jane Austen July, and that's definitely more pressing than Jennifer's recommendations. Not that I won't get Jennifer's recommendations another time, but yeah, I'm just spending a lot of money that I do have, but it's just odd for me to spend this much money all at once without like going on vacation or something. So anyway, this is a long little clip, so we're gonna close this out, and I will talk to you probably tomorrow. I'm starting my new job later today, and I feel like my head's gonna be full of that, so I don't think I'm gonna do any more discussion today unless something exciting happens. So anyway, I will see you in the next clip. So reading Pilgrim's Progress for the day, and as you can see by my annotations, I was just dying because Bunyan just roasted the Pope in this paragraph, and it was so pointed, and I was just shocked by how pointed this was. Like, first of all, he sees two giants who have apparently eaten all these pilgrims, and one's the Pope and the other's a pagan, so he puts the Pope and pagans next to each other, which at the time, like, burn. And then down here it talks about how pagan is dead, so Christian's fine. And then down below, the Pope, he can do little more than sit in his cave's mouth, grinning at pilgrims as they go by and biting his nails because he cannot come at them. Like, I have absolutely nothing against Catholics, but John Bunyan's clearly did. And this just got me. I just had to share it.
Hi guys, so brief little update. It is the 9th of June, and I just finished reading A Lay of Marie de France. I actually think I might try to finish that today. I only have 3 more lays, and it's about 50 pages, which it's like poetry, so like 50 pages, but they're not like full pages. And I have a bit of time before I have to do some work training for my new job at 4. It is currently about noon. I do have to read my portion of Pilgrim's Progress and eat lunch, so I have a little bit to do, but I think I could definitely finish the lays. So I think I might do that just to have them done so I can focus a little bit more on the Sunne and Splendour. But what I mostly wanted to come on here and talk about is I just read my portion of the History of the Kings of Britain, and oh my gosh, this is really surprising me. I really was not sure that I would like this very much, but it's so much fun because it's just basically putting all these legends together and making them like history, and it's just really interesting. And actually, the reason I want to talk about it right now is it actually just brought up the story of King Lear, which for those of you who don't know, there's a play by Shakespeare called King Lear, which I knew was based on like a historical kind of legendary story, but I didn't realize it would be included in this. So I just read the story of King Lear in this book, and it was like pretty much exactly the same as what Shakespeare has, slightly different but pretty similar. And I don't know, I just thought it was kind of fun. So anyway, I'm really, really liking this more than I thought I would, which is exciting. Again, it's one that I thought it would be a little bit dry, being a medieval history, but it's not. It's pretty interesting. And so I'm excited to continue with it. So I'm going to use the restroom really quick, and then I'm going to read my portion of Pilgrim's Progress for the day. And then while I'm eating lunch, I think I'm going to watch Loki, because the first episode of the new miniseries just came out on Disney+. So I think I'm going to watch that while I eat lunch, and then obviously a little after, because it's like 50 minutes. It's not gonna take me 50 minutes to eat lunch. But after that, I think I'm going to focus in on the Lais of Marie de France. So that is the plan, and I will update you whenever I can.
Hey guys, so it is Thursday the 10th, and I have a couple exciting updates for you. But first of all, I got a little bit of book mail, so I thought I would open it in this vlog. It's kind of like a huge, oddly huge package, because like this, the books are there, and it's like almost folded in half, but whatever, I'm not in charge. And, oh, okay, so I got 2 books, both for Jane Austen July, and I'm very excited about them. So first of all, I got Lady Susan and Other Works by Jane Austen. I think it contains, I don't even know what it contains, to be quite honest. Let's see. So obviously Lady Susan. Oh, it looks like it includes a lot of her juvenilia and the Watsons and Sanditon. So that should be really fun. I'm excited about that. I got this because I'm almost through all of the Jane Austen full-length novels. So it's great that this has a collection of her other works. Pretty much all the rest of her works, as far as I can tell. I'd like to do a little bit more research to make sure, but I think it has all her other works, not including like her letters and stuff, so that's really exciting. Don't know how I feel about this weird clip art that they chose, but that's part of the Wordsworth Classics edition. Sometimes they do a good job, I feel like, with picking their pictures, and other times not so much. So I feel like this is a time where they were just very lazy about it. So anyway, there's that. And then the other one I got is one I wanted to read, but it wasn't super high on my priority list, but I just felt inspired by the Jane Austen July announcement videos. So I ended up picking up The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. This is a story following Mary Bennet. It's not a very pretty cover. I don't know why they decided to do this, and it doesn't look like the ones, I don't know if this is like the American edition or if it's just a weird, I don't know, but I don't love that because it has, I think the other editions I've seen have this picture, but it has like the full picture as the cover and then has the title just on it, so I don't know why this was done. I don't really like that, but I am excited to give this one a shot. I've heard good things about it, so hopefully I'll be able to get to that in Jane Austen July. As for this month's readathon, Ancientsathon, I am doing great. I think I forgot to mention yesterday, but I did complete Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. Gave it 5 out of 5 stars, definitely my favorite thing that I've read this month so far. I just really liked the Norse myths. I loved the way Neil Gaiman told them, and I find all the Norse gods and goddesses very fascinating, and I'm excited to continue in the Norse mythology kind of sphere, start with some sagas and stuff. I think I'm really going to like them, which it's very interesting because I honestly, based on this one book, I think I might enjoy Norse mythology more than Greek or Roman mythology. I mean, I do really like Greek and Roman mythology, but there's just a lot of rape in Greek mythology, and adultery and stuff like that, and it's not like that's completely absent from Norse mythology, but I think there's a little bit more respect towards women in Norse mythology. I mean, it's not ideal still, but there's definitely more respect towards women, and I feel like I appreciate Norse mythology a little bit better so far, at least based on that one book. So I'm excited to continue. If you have any recommendations for where I should go next, please let me know. But I also yesterday ended up finishing The Lais of Marie de France. I was originally planning to finish this Saturday or Monday, depending on how my life went, but yesterday I had 50 pages of this left, and I was like, you know what, let's give it a try. I think I mentioned in my last clip that I was thinking about doing that. Well, I did, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. It was a lot of fun. My one complaint is just totally personal preference. I felt like the writing was good, this translation seemed good enough. I really liked the stories as a whole. There was just a lot of cheating in pretty much all of these lays, and I kind of knew that going in, so it wasn't like a surprise to me, but I just don't love that. I don't love that, and I felt like it was kind of odd because some of the lays would like condemn cheating, but some of them were like, well, she has an evil husband, so it's okay. And I don't know, I just feel like anybody can say their husband's evil. Like, you can't, like, unless you show me that, which not all of these Lais did. There was one in particular, actually, I think it was, I don't even remember which one it was. It was one of the later ones, though, that, like, directly she just was in love with this man, and we don't even, like, know anything about her husband. He's just kind of in the way, and then he dies, and they're like, oh, hooray, and, like, they even think about killing him. But there's, like, nothing to say that he's a bad person. Like, and so I struggled with that flip-flop between different, like, values, I guess, when it came to stuff like that. So again, that was totally personal preference. Other people probably will not care as much as I do, but that is something that really bothered me throughout it, so I couldn't quite give it a 5 stars. But I did really enjoy it, and I'm glad I read it finally all the way through. I'm hoping in the future to continue to return to them, because the stories themselves were very entertaining, and I can't even think of one that I didn't like. I guess the only one I really struggled with was actually the last one, which is also the longest one, and it's Eliduc, I think is how it's called, how it's pronounced, I mean. But that one was just, I don't know, I didn't really appreciate any of the, like, there was one character, I think it was, the problem was, let's start over that ramble. The problem with that one was that I actually really liked one of the characters, and I felt like in the end that character was very wronged, very unfairly wronged. And I didn't feel like the lay really pointed out how unfair it was. I mean, it kind of did to an extent, but it kind of left it up to the reader to decide what they think, which I like. But my personal decision when it came to how I felt about it was I didn't really like him. I didn't really like Eliduc, who is also the main character's name, and I felt like he was just not good enough for either of the women in his life, so that kind of bothered me. It kind of hindered my enjoyment because there was a lot of focus on him, and I didn't like him. So there was at least one lay that I actually really liked. I think it was called, oh gosh, I can't remember what it was called. Yannick, that's the one, where I really liked the story, but there were little things about it that were like plot holes, which with a story like this, you can't really like argue against plot holes too much, because I mean, it's just a fun story. It's not supposed to make total sense. And with pretty much all the other ones, like, it didn't bother me. I didn't really like notice things, but with that one in particular, it was like they talk about putting like spikes in this girl's window because she has a secret lover who turns into a hawk and flies in. And my first thought was immediately like, wouldn't she notice that they're building spikes on her window? Like, so it was like something like that where I was like, I mean, I know this is a fairy tale, but most of the others are pretty good about making decent sense, you know? Like, you can find plot holes, I'm sure, but like on the whole, they make pretty good sense. Anyway, that was a total tangent, but still enjoyed this. Again, will return to them in the future, and I have officially finished 3 out of my 6 books for my TBR, which is so exciting. As such, I think I'm actually going to stop this vlog here. It is a little earlier than I originally planned, but since I finished half my TBR already, I feel like I should wait for my second vlog to continue discussing my books. The rest of my TBR as I finish the other 3, or at least get close to finishing my other 3. I'm pretty sure my next vlog won't go all the way till the end of the month, so chances are I won't quite finish all 3 of the rest of my TBR by that point, but hopefully a couple of them. And yeah, we'll just see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below how the first half of your Ancientsathon has gone. What have you read? What have you liked? What have you disliked? Have you read any of the things I read in this vlog, and what were your thoughts on them? I'd love to know. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you would like to, and I will see you next time. Bye!